Challenges with leisure paddling, I think, can be massive, and it's one of the reasons I really hope these videos help. We've got this great opportunity of stand-up paddleboarding, of introducing anybody that wants to get involved in water sports and get themselves in the water, which is great, and make the most of their local beaches. But there's quite a few things that if you don't know, you don't know. So you can go down your local beach and you can get it quite wrong, and quite often see people going out with maybe no leash or the wrong leash, or the paddle might not always be the right way round, or the fin might not be quite in right, or that it looks like fantastic conditions, from your first look, but actually the wind's slightly offshore, and there's definitely some traps that I've seen people fall into that are really easy to fall into with just a little bit of knowledge would probably go away pretty quickly.
Daily we're dealing with that people are either new to the water or inexperienced. Our safety messages are really that people go down and speak to the lifeguards. It's really important they do that. They get that local knowledge off the guards, and then they know what to do if they do get into trouble.
Challenges you might face from a safety point of view when you go leisure paddling, conditions is always number one. So that super flat, calm water might be disguising an offshore wind 50 metres offshore that could give you some issues. So understanding the forecast and the kit you're on. You can definitely go out in more challenging conditions, but with all types of stand-up paddleboarding, that'll be based on your knowledge, your skill and your experience. So over time, and as you build up those experiences, you'll be able to venture out in more and more challenging conditions, but that's certainly over time. And again, it comes back to this idea of if in doubt, don't go out, and make sure that you're kind of building up that experience and that ability before you start putting yourself in a more testing environment. The other side is, it's a great time to go on the beach when the sun's out, but that means that everybody else is there. So there's other craft and water users that not so much that you might pose a safety danger to, but they might pose a danger to you, whether there's a speed limit restriction that if you get outside that, there's a lot of jet skis, motorboats, things cruising around at high speed that you might need to be careful of. So it's the environmental factors in terms of weather, but then there's the environmental factors in terms of other people and how to know what they're doing and where to stay or what area to be in, really.
I think there's lots of different elements that come into different beaches. You've got tidal ranges, you've got the wind, we've got potentially the waves. But even on flat water beaches, the wind can cause quite a lot of chop, or even tidal flow can, cause movement in the water, and that can also be quite a danger in itself, and it's not always an obvious danger. And I think, that's why it's important that people do go to lifeguarded beaches. They speak to the lifeguards, they get that local knowledge off the lifeguards, and if they do get into danger, there's that support and safety cover there to help people.
Equipment I'd go leisure paddling with might vary a little bit depending on the conditions. So again, board, paddle, leash, they're my kind of top three. But board, I'm more likely to go for a all-round board, so I can do a bit of cruising around and moving around, but I'm not necessarily trying to paddle for distance or anything along those lines. In terms of what I wear, that's a bit of a challenge really, because even in the height of summer, if I go in, the water can be still pretty cold, and I need to dress for submersion. I'm probably trying to pick the right wetsuit or right outerwear that's going to allow me to deal with that effectively. And there can be a risk that you're going to derobe too quickly, so we're in like shorts and t-shirt when actually it might need much more than that. So knowing what the water temperature is, or knowing what it's likely to be like, is pretty important.
It's knowing your ability and knowing the sort of level you're at. Obviously, if you're brand new to stand-up paddleboarding, you would want to have a lesson and be with someone that's more experienced. And if you are a little bit more experienced, then it's making sure you're prepared and having, that sort of procedure and communication plan in place to make sure that you're doing it safely. And I think we've all got a responsibility to make sure whatever we're doing on the water, we're doing it safely and doesn't impact on other people.
When people first go leisure paddling, one of the challenges you got from that environment is you've just built your skills up and we're going into a new environment, and it's trying to make sure you stay externally focused rather than internally focused. So when you've built up new skills, the challenge can be to be focused on what you're doing. Whereas when we're looking to leisure paddle down the coast, I need to be focused on where I am or what's going on. So there's a few different ways I can make my life easier for that. So the first one would be actually before I leave and before I do any paddling is taking a good look around on the beach, work out where the wind's coming from, and highly likely try and paddle into wind first. if I know there's a bit of tide flowing, I'll try and paddle into tide first. And immediately what it's going to mean is when I'm fresh, I'm going against the prevailing conditions, and they'll bring me back towards where I started. The other side is actually looking back onto the shoreline and trying to pick up some landmarks. So making sure I know which landmarks I'm aiming at to get myself back home, but what the extensions might be in terms of how happy I'm to go that way or happy I'm to go in the other direction. So picking up those points on land, and I can use those as, you know, kind of transits, if you like, to go, right, if I get to this point, I know I'm going a bit too far, so I'm going to come back to where I go. Now, most of those things can be decided before I leave or before I hit the water, and then that makes it much, much easier to refer back to. So the things I think about are, you know, where's the wind pushing me, and can I go against it first? Where's the tide pushing me, and can I go against it first? And what's my safe landmark that I'm starting near, and what are the extremes which I'm happy to go to? And to start with, keeping the area nice and small, and as I build up a bit more experience, I might be able to extend it a little bit.